timing is everything.
I think Batman might
Hey guys, it's a beautiful Friday. I'm back. That was crazy. I just said that. Anyways, we're back. I'm back on the House Worker Files and Global Enlightenment Radio Network. And this is a beautiful Friday with your very well-known psychic Chris Garcia with co-hosting Christopher Fisher. And we can actually say it. We're actually having Anthony on.
I'm
I
back.
was supposed to say that. That's what I said. You know what? I think that's a little bit of both of us, so to speak. So welcome to the show, Anthony.
Oh, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
So
I got to put my cat down. He's taking over here. Hold on. Okay, I'm ready. I
Okay,
decatted.
So you know what? That was funny that we both said it, right, Anthony? Because I was out of service and you were waiting for me. So yeah, we're both back. All right. So, but I would like to know what is in store for my birthday, because of what I've heard, Mercury retrogrades in September 9th.
It's not Mercury going retrograde on September 9th. It's Mars going retrograde. And before I just get to your chart, just give me 2 minutes here, because I want to give everybody a heads up. Mars is going retrograde. It happens every couple of years. And when it does happen, Mars stays in the same sign for about 4 months. Otherwise, Mars goes zip into a sign about every month or so, month and a half. So when Mars goes retrograde every 2 years, it wreaks a little bit of trouble. Mars is about action, getting stuff done. It's in Aries this time, which is in its own rulership. So what's interesting is on September 9th, it goes retro at 28 degrees Aries. And until about November 11th, I think November 14th, it goes direct again. It doesn't get out of Aries till January. Okay, so what? Well, the 3 planets that have been causing a lot of trouble this year, which is Saturn and Pluto and Jupiter all in Capricorn, which, led to the quarantine and the economic troubles and a lot of this stuff, are all in late Capricorn, which means Mars is going to square them 3 times before January. And a square is 90 degrees, which means it usually kind of causes some friction. So just speaking in general, not specifically about your chart, because actually you have an interesting year coming up, what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of agitation. Now, Mars can be about fighting, aggressiveness, cutting, infections, fires, but it can also be action-oriented. So over the next few months, there's going to be a lot of energy out there. We're still going to have the roller coaster. I don't think that things are going to quiet down until around December. So all I want to tell people is if you're feeling a lot of energy, try to use it to do something constructive. Don't use it to punch somebody in the face because you disagree with them. We have a lot of that going on anyway right now. So I do want to mention that's kind of what's been happening and will be happening. Actually, Mercury will go retrograde later, not this month, but it's going to go direct on election day while Mars is retrograde. So election day itself is going to be a little nutty. I think we'll have an answer of who won, but I have a feeling it's not going to be officially settled right away. I think some people will perhaps disagree with the results of the elections and may try to change it, but I think we're going to know who won on election day. But it's still going to be a little crazy, and then hopefully it'll quiet down.
By December.
Yeah, by December. Actually, I'm really looking, I think December, the solstice, December 21st, both Jupiter and Saturn will have left Capricorn. They'll be conjunct at exactly 0 degrees Aquarius. So they're just beginning Aquarius.
That's where my Venus is. 0 degree Aquarius.
Well, could bring some romance in there for you. Because Jupiter brings some expansion and growth. And Saturn makes it very practical. So it could, instead of a quickie, it might be a long-term relationship. Who knows? But the thing about... The great thing about it is that when Jupiter and Saturn get together anyway, one's about expansion, one's about compression. They can kind of be very good for controlled growth. So it's not like growing so fast it's not going to work, and it's not, held back so much. So I'm really looking forward to, as we enter into Capricorn this year, hopefully cooler heads will prevail and we'll start moving forward in a practical way, because it's been a lot of turmoil lately. And look, we've all learned a lot over the last 6 months. Some good things, some not so good things. But I think we'll be ready to start, really kind of getting it together and putting it on, So that's just about us. So hang in there. Next couple months a little crazy. Try to be positive when you feel a lot of energy and do something positive with it. Try not to start any fist fights or anything else. And I think things will start improving in December and into January. We still got a ways to go. Look, the stuff that's happened in the past 6 months are not going to clean up overnight. So all of us are going to have to pull together in the new year and start setting things right. I don't know if we can even go back to the way things were, but we can set them right and do them right. It might be a little different in the long run, that's all.
Yep.
It'll be different than the last 4 years, because I have a feeling from reading the stars on that particular day on November 3rd, we're in for a shift.
Yeah, we're definitely in for a shift, and I think it could be positive. I mean, but it's going to be different. The old ways may not work as well as they used to, but, So, Chris, you want to know about your upcoming year, huh?
Yeah, my birthday's coming up on the 9/12. So do you need to know my year?
No, I have your chart already.
Okay.
You're in my files. You think once I do a person's chart, I got them. Well, what I'm doing is I'm going to read two things. I'm going to look at your solar return chart, and I'm going to look at the transits coming up. Now, what a solar return chart is when you're born at an exact moment, your sun is like at an exact degree. In your case, it's at 19 degrees Virgo, 58 minutes. So every year, for about 5 minutes, the sun is going to be at 19 degrees Virgo, 58 minutes. And we set up a chart for that exact moment. And we consider that part of the way we forecast the upcoming year. So right off the bat, I'm going to say in your yearly solar return chart, Mars, which just goes retrograde, is exactly on your midheaven. So even though it's retrograde, I think a lot of action is going to take place in your career and your public image. I think you will get out there and get more known. At the exact moment of your solar return, the moon is in Cancer on the rising sun of your solar return. So you're going to be very emotional out there. Moon in Cancer is very mothering, and I mean that in a non-sexual way, but just you're a natural nurturer. And I think that's going to come to the forefront. So I think you're going to have a year of, kind of expanding who you are. People will get to know you better. A lot of it will involve your natural abilities to sort of nurture and encourage people and help them grow. Venus is in your first house in Leo, so that does suggest you'll be relating to people and be acknowledged, the way Leo likes to get some attention. Uranus is in your house of career, so expect some changes. Changes aren't necessarily bad. Some of them will be sudden, but they can be positive. It may not be it'll be a, how do I put this? Those three planets that I said were making us all crazy this year are all in your house of relationships. So, well, it may not be a good year for one-to-one relationships, or if it is a good year for them, they're not going to be casual. Saturn and Pluto and Jupiter are all in there, and so you may find that your relationships may get some challenges to them. But when Pluto is involved in this and Saturn, it's usually practical. It doesn't just blow up because it wants to. It's actually you'll have some opportunities for some lessons this year and positive growth. Because we can always grow, and it does suggest that one area of your life where you'll probably be, I think, challenged a little more and pushed a little more will be in one-to-one relationships. And it doesn't just have to be a spouse or a lover. One-to-one relationships can be business partners, and they can be close personal friends. So your close relationships, whether they're romantic or deep friendships, will be going through some changes. Now, look, it makes sense, because if you do become more well-known with new changes in your career and going out there, things will be shifting, and people are going to have to adjust. Excuse me. So for the most part, it looks like a good year. Mercury is going to be in your house of communications, third house. So that, too, suggests that communications, emotional release, and connection to other people, and being very forward in your career is going to be very strong this year. And one-to-one relationships, now there's a lot of nice aspects to this stuff in the seventh house. And by aspects, that's how planets are linked to each other. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4 trines, which is nice. So as difficult as the seventh house might be with one-to-one relationships, there's a lot of positive energy connecting to it. So there may be, like I said, you may go through some growth. And I know we all hate to grow because we like ourselves the way we are. But this is a good opportunity for you to expand who you are and relate to people in a more direct and honest and clear kind of a way. So it could be a pretty good year in general. Where they say some surprises, but kind of very forward moving, So, and let me just check the transits in the chart, because that has something to do with it. Actually, you're in the middle, transit-wise, you're actually in the middle of what we consider the astrological midlife crisis, which is around 30, where are you, 35, 36 is roughly when it happens for you. All it really means is, when I say Uranus, the planet, is opposite where it is in your natal chart. So what's happening is the planet of freedom and individuality is now halfway around the zodiac, and it's almost like, what a midlife crisis kind of is. We use the word crisis, but it's we get to the middle of our lives and we start going, am I being who I am? Where am I going? Is this what I want? So, this will probably work pretty well with your solar return, because it is a time of change and a time of becoming more Chris-like publicly and being more known. So, because that's the strongest thing I see happening transit-wise. Most of the transits that are happening out there, let me just check here, are not really super affecting you. Okay, Neptune's opposite your sun, but Neptune is a planet you're an old friend with, because Neptune is all about spirituality and the other side of the veil. It's not really about the physical world. So even in opposition, I don't think you would ever struggle with Neptune. So really, the Uranian opposition, your midlife crisis, seems strong this year. And then your solar return suggests, a certain amount of public forwardness, success, connecting with people in an emotional way, being acknowledged, and then just trying to work out some issues with one-to-one relationships and making sure you're being open and honest and you're connecting well with the people that you love, not just your public, so to speak. Not that you don't love your public. I don't want to make it sound, but clearly anybody in a position like you love who you work with, but the people you actually love deeply is another level of kind of love. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I know you give off a lot of love. Everybody,
Yes.
So that's natural for you, but that's a very wonderful form of love. But you may find yourself needing to examine how you love the ones that you're close to, and that maybe you could improve, maybe they could improve, maybe some changes need to be made. It doesn't have to be painful. It can be uncomfortable, but it doesn't mean it has to be painful. So you got a pretty good year ahead of you, actually, all things considered.
You know what I was going to say, Anthony? You're right about that, because I've been, even though it's not my birthday, I have been emotional. It's just really just, And lately I got more tongue-tied. The messages are coming through. It's like they're taking over my throat chakra. So I blurb things up sometimes. So yeah, something about the red moon. Yes, I'm already out there already, but I could see where you're coming from that, because more people are asking about me, and I'm made more. Like, everybody even told me, there's a few friends of mine, even my friend Sean that we had on the show. He said that you're going to be very well demand, high demand, and I'll give you that, because what you said is exactly what he said, but in your terms with astrology. So you're right on the money. So I appreciate that. And I'll let you know with the relationships after my birthday passes, to see how the cycle and how I have to adjust to the relationship and stuff like that. But other than the pretty basic stuff, that's already happening. So that's kind of funny that you said that. So you're right about that. I appreciate that. So that was my birthday reading. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Happy birthday, you old fart. Okay.
Okay, Katie's next.
After Katie, I want that update.
Okay. Let's see. I have Katie's chart up here somewhere. Meeny, miny, mo. Here we go, Katie. Okay. Today's August 22nd. That's the chart I have up right now. Now, those three planets I was talking about in Capricorn, Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn, they'll come up a lot for the next 6 months, because it's just the way it is. Jupiter in particular is right on your Mars, which is in your first house, and it's in Capricorn. And you're already Capricorn rising, and I know we've mentioned this before. People with Capricorn rising like to play it cool. Like, I'm fine, I'm okay, everything's cool. But Mars is kind of getting a little agitated up there. You're probably feeling a bit more forceful than usual. And now it's in Capricorn. Mars is funny in Capricorn. In Aries, it just comes out and punches somebody. But when Mars is in Capricorn, it sort of plans before it does anything. You're less likely to be completely spontaneous when you have Mars in Capricorn, because if you're going to be spontaneous, you want to have at least like 5 or 6 rules and regulations around you to make sure you're aiming it correctly. But Jupiter's kind of pushing your boundaries. Jupiter's really kind of asking you to become more public, maybe not be as it's not that you're withdrawn, but you don't always share. Your Sun and your Moon are in Cancer, and they're very emotional, but Cancer can be guarded about sharing the deepest stuff. They'll always tell you when they're upset. Excuse me. I always drink a lot in this show. Water and tea, by the way. I'm not getting drunk here. The moon. Your moon is in Cancer. The moon loves being in Cancer. You're a deeply emotional person. But Katie, you tend to let some stuff out, and there's some things that's as far as I'm going with that. So Jupiter is kind of almost encouraging you to be more direct, to be more forward, and to bring stuff out more. So that's not necessarily a bad thing, but you may not be 100% comfortable with it, because up until now you've not done that. You felt your feelings, and you let out the ones that you knew you could feel comfortable with. But Cancer is very emotional and very vulnerable, and your Moon and your Sun, you're very Cancerian. And on some level, Capricorn rising's good, because Capricorn rising, for somebody that much Cancer in their chart, it's almost like you have an extra hard shell as the Cancer the crab, which isn't bad because you are so vulnerable. But it doesn't mean the shell, you don't always want to keep it locked down. So you're kind of getting these encouragements to grow forward and explore. And look, I know Pluto over the past couple of years has been opposite your Moon and your Sun, maybe 2-3 years ago to 2 years ago. That's powerful stuff. When Pluto hits your Sun and Moon, either by conjunction or opposition, it's really a period of transformation. So I would think 2 or 3 years ago, you went through a lot of emotional stuff. That, a Pluto transit is partially about being reborn a little bit. So when people have a strong Pluto transit, like the one you did get a couple years ago, you may have felt like you had to leave a lot of the old ways behind. You had to transform and grow and evolve, like being reborn like a phoenix, like the phoenix bird that is born out of its own ashes. And that's tricky for a Cancer, because Cancers are very sentimental. So letting go of the past is not so easy for a Cancer. So it might have been a bit of a struggle when Pluto, and this is again a couple of years ago, but I'm mentioning this because now it's almost like if a couple of years ago was sort of like graduating college. This Jupiter on your Mars opposition is almost like, a little bit of graduate school. You're still cleaning up some of the results and the growth and the transformation of a couple of years ago. And as a part of you thinking, God, I thought that was over. But this isn't that bad. And so there's a lot of growth going on. I know Saturn is kind of up there too. It's a little further on than the planets we're talking about, but it is kind of helping balance this out and keep it on target. So be a little more direct. Be willing to be a little more vulnerable. I'm not saying open all the doors. Nobody should, but be a little more forward. And I know you're getting, not right now, but it's getting close. But in the next year or so, Neptune, the spiritual planet, will be crossing over your Jupiter, your planet of expansion and growth, and it's trining that Cancer bundle right now. So this is actually a great time for spiritual growth. Look, for people like us that aren't, Chris has got the wonderful blessing of being born with this very strong in him. But for people like me and maybe you, it's more of a struggle for us to open up spiritually, because it's not as easy for us. And you already have a certain amount of guarded quality. But to be spiritual, a certain amount of vulnerability is there, because you have to rely on intuition. And I often joke, the tricky thing about intuition always has a reason, but it never tells you what it is. So you're sitting there going like, I have an urge to do this, and you'll try to talk yourself out of it. And what you're entering into now is a period of when you're going to have to, not have to, but it would behoove you, as they say, to be more trusting of your spirituality and not always demand that you have an answer for everything, and learn to move forward with it, and learn to fine-tune your intuition. A lot of us have urges. I often joke, the tricky part of intuition is, sometimes you come home and you're really upset and you have an urge to eat a gallon of ice cream. That's not intuition, okay? That's emotional problems we have. So, but sometimes you have that urge of like, gee, I really, really feel like, going into this store, and I never go in that store. And then you go in the store and you discover maybe an old friend of yours you hadn't seen in years is in there. So that's the tricky part with intuition, learning to separate our emotional patterns, like overeating or drinking if we're upset, or overspending if we're one of the shopaholics out there. That's not intuition. But those funny little feelings like, I just want to go down that street instead of this street. And the problem with intuition too is that sometimes you never know why. Maybe that urge to take the side road meant you missed an accident. Well, you don't want to go back and have an accident to discover intuition was right. So sometimes we never know. And I suspect you may struggle a bit with that, because you tend to want to have an answer. And if this is a good time to move in the direction of opening up a bit more and expanding, and again, with Jupiter on your Mars, and actually that Mars retro I talked about is going to affect you a bit, because your Sun and Moon are at 14 and 16, and your Mars is at 18 degrees. And so when Mars is going retrograde, it's going to cross over those numbers a couple of times. So you may find over the next couple of months a lot of kind of urgency and desire to do stuff, and you'll probably struggle with it, because again, there's a natural reticence in your chart. This is a time to push those boundaries, because it will actually open you up more than you think it will. And recognize the boundaries. Nothing's wrong with having a boundary, but it's a matter of sometimes we put up 10-foot thick stone walls when really we just needed maybe a chain link fence, and a do not disturb sign on the outside. So does that sort of make some sense for you, or is there anything particularly you want to
it does. And where is it transiting in the next 6 months?
Which one? Jupiter or Mars? Mars will be Mars will be at the bottom of your chart in your domestic, house of domestic, your inner life. So it could mean action in your home, in the sense that sometimes that can imply redecoration, or maybe moving, not as likely moving, but taking some sort of action in the home. Now, if you're not redecorating, it could sometimes imply friction in the home. But if you're all on the same plate, so to speak, you'll be working together, and it could be something where all of you do something together as opposed to fighting with each other. whoever that home is, So it's going to be dancing around down inside, which is actually, it's also your inner self. So Mars down there is kind of pushing around your inner self stuff. So like I said, it just brings in more kind of a suggestion of the more you work on your inner self and bringing it outside and making it more public. I'm not saying open all the doors, but open a couple more doors and windows than you've had open in your life. Could be very beneficial to you, and very very liberating in the long run, although it will be probably a little scary because nobody likes to feel vulnerable, And I think you'll be learning better to cope with what that means, and I mean that in the sense of like, the 10-foot thick stone wall as opposed to the chain link fence, because we all definitely want to feel safe. That's absolutely guaranteed. But the question is, some of us overdo it. I live in New York City. I see apartments with like 7 locks on the front door, and it's like, you don't need 7 locks on the door. So that's kind of what I'm talking about here. If again that makes some sense.
What about the Jupiter transit over the next 6 months?
Well, it's going to be weebling and wobbling back over the next couple of months on your Mars, and then it's going to start easing up. So Jupiter will ease off your Mars will still be going around retrograde and sort of irritating you a little bit, but the Jupiter thing and Saturn will be moving out. Actually, by as I mentioned, by December it'll be in Aquarius, and within a month or so after that it'll be into your second house, and that's not bad either. Jupiter will be in your second house for most of 2020, and Jupiter brings benefits, and the second house is about finances. So you may find next year being a financially rewarding year. I'm not saying you're going to win lotto, okay, but you may just find whatever you're doing, you may pick up some extra jobs, you may get a promotion, there may be a move to another company. I don't know what you do, but I'm just saying there's a suggestion that the sources of your money somehow will expand and be positive. And because it's your second house is in Aquarius, which is all through your lifetime, you probably have, and this is more about Aquarius, unusual ways of making money. And I mean that in the sense of you may not be a 9-to-5er necessarily. You may not enjoy working for other people because they keep telling you how they want it done. And you have your own ideas about that. And that's sometimes where you run into a little bit of trouble. But whatever you do to make money, you may find more money coming in over the next year. Okay? That's what Jupiter...
To give you some validation from the last reading to this reading, I have now taken up an extracurricular job, which is now leading me straight into spirituality. It is also. Do you remember how you were telling me about lecturing and teaching?
Learning? Okay.
Learning.
Mm-hmm.
I am just about to be. I'm now teaching.
Oh, sweet.
I am also going to be doing a whole heap of lecturing. I'm actually doing a double doctorate right now in metaphysics, one in metaphysics, and within the next month I'll be certified as a reverend practitioner.
There's that Neptune in action too, the spiritual side, sure.
And
yeah,
so that's why before I asked, before the show, I have everything going for me right now.
Sweet.
That's amazing, and it's funny because he got giving you some validation, and like I told you, Anthony, I've never asked you for a thing. I've been on your show already 4 times, and I never asked you. And then I think I read you maybe the first time. That was a long time ago.
About a year and a half ago, yeah.
Yeah, and it's been just amazing because, the exchange of energy is good. And I just want to tell you that, the stuff that you said about me, it's just dead on. I'll just tell you that. Now, I'll let you know about the relationship, like I said, and then that's good that you got validation on Katie. I know that we do have callers. I think we do have 2. We have a 206.
Yeah.
206.
Okay, and Chris, we won't forget about you. I got your chart up, but let's deal with the caller and and see what happens there.
Caller, you need to unmute yourself. There you go.
Unmute yourself, 206, 206.
Hi, this is Mickey.
Hi, Mickey.
That's Mickey with an
Hello. Mickey with an N as in Nancy.
Okay, want to make sure I got it right.
Yeah, it's Nikki.
Okay.
Okay,
and what's your birth
date?
Yeah, the birth information.
Okay. 02/28/1968.
So February 28,
1968.
Okay, and do you know the birth time?
Yep, 12:18 p.m.
12:18, 18 minutes past noon. And where in the world were you born?
Seattle, Washington.
Okay, that's easy enough to put in. And we'll see what the chart... Oh, let me just... There we go. Okay, February 28th, 1968, 18 minutes past noon, Seattle, Washington. Oh, you have a sun and moon in the same sign. Hold on a second. You're Pisces, and your moon is in Pisces. So that makes you extra Pisces. Okay. And, there's a wonderful natural empathy to Pisces. But I see two different kinds. Pisces can generally kind of divide into two sort of people. All Pisceans are very sensitive. They can be very empathetic. They can pick up a lot of people's feelings around them. And some Pisceans become, very kind of a spiritual sponge and very open. And there's another kind that basically build armor and don't let anybody close because they don't know how to process their very strong feelings. In your particular case, you're both okay. But it's important. But Pisces does need to learn to pace itself. I often tell people with a strong Pisces, it's like sometimes once a day, lock yourself into a room and don't talk to anybody. Just be with yourself, because you are so empathetic that sometimes, and I don't want to make it sound like a bad thing, but sometimes you almost lose track of who you are because you're feeling everybody's feelings. So that's why I say you lock yourself in the room just to say, like, okay, Nikki, what's going on inside yourself now? Who are you? As opposed to some
meditation and music are my key factors.
That's definitely very strong for you. And both your sun and your moon, which are conjunct, which, as I say, it makes you kind of very... Both sides of you are Pisces, and it's on your midheaven, which does suggest a very Piscean career, which, Piscean career could be healing, could be something very emotionally sensitive. You could... Let me see if it backs it up. You could be a psychotherapist. You could be a social worker. You could be somebody. You could possibly be nurse or healer in some way, shape, or form, or doctor. I don't want to be sexist here. I tend to say nurse only because I believe in male or female. Nurses are the ones that really heal people. Doctors kind of come in. They're kind of like the mechanic going, tighten up that pump and, change the wheels. And then the nurses are the ones that do the work. So that's what I mean, is this empathy quality. So there is kind of a healing quality. I do want to say, though, you got a packed 10th house, because the sun and the moon are in Pisces. Sun 9 degrees, moon is 15 degrees. Chiron is at 28 degrees Pisces. Chiron is it's not quite a comet. It's not quite an asteroid, but it's the healer. It's really a sense of healing, which is in your 10th house of career, in sensitive Pisces. But what's interesting is that you have Saturn and Mars conjunct on top of each other in Aries, which Aries and Pisces are about as different as can be, because Aries can be very self-oriented and does what it wants to do. But yours is in your 10th house. It's almost like you're an aggressive healer, an aggressive empath. Saturn and Mars conjunct. Now, Mars is very happy in Aries, but Saturn I have Saturn Mars conjunct in Scorpio. Mars is charging forward, and Saturn is kind of like, wait, double check where we're going, make sure we're doing the right thing. Now, together, when they're conjunct together like that, when you decide you want to get something done, it's basically get out of your way, okay? Yep. Because you'll have figured it out, and you're ready to do it, and you'll do it. And because you have the wonderful benefit of all that Pisces, you'll probably not do it in a selfish, steamrolling kind of way. Nope. If anything, you actually do it to help people. And by the way, your North Node is also in your 10th house. The North Node is, don't worry what it is, but it indicates in a chart where you will grow the most. So you actually have kind of a very public chart in the sense that you've got your sun and your moon right up top, and your sense of action and your sense of responsibility and your healing abilities are all in the 10th house with the North Node, saying this is the way to head. Now, you are part of that generation in the 60s that was all born with Pluto and Uranus conjunct in Virgo. And in your case, they're a little loosely opposite your sun. So you definitely have to be careful with other people. And I don't mean that in a scary way. It's not like watch out for them. But other people can disrupt you and upset you. And kind of throw you for a loop at times. So that's one of the reasons the more you can focus on exactly who you are, that's really your form of protection. Not building a wall, but rooting yourself as deeply as possible that people can't knock you off your feet, if that makes sense to you. Okay.
Yes.
Now it does suggest, they're both in your 4th house, it does suggest a certain amount of inner turmoil for you, not in a terrible way, but it may suggest that there's some stuff that grew up when you were growing up that weren't quite the way it was supposed to be. I don't want to make it sound like you had a horrible childhood. I don't think you had a horrible one. I don't see a horrible childhood, but I do see there were disruptions in your childhood, unexpected disruptions, a lot of things that most kids would take for granted, you really couldn't. They were like the rules were a bit different for you than other kids, and you've only beginning to figure that out now. So that's something that's definitely been a bit of a challenge for you. Now, Neptune by transit's been rolling across that sun and moon for about the last 5 years or so. It's beginning to ease up now. So probably over the last 5 years has been both either profoundly spiritual for you, or sometimes a Neptune transit can be like being drunk for 5 years. Because the reason I say that, the reason I say that is that Neptune isn't really about the physical world. So it's not really about physical stuff. So what happens is Neptune can be very dreamy and very creative, a rich imagination, but it's not always rational. Okay, which is, the biggest.
That's interesting.
So, but if you get into spirituality, well, sitting and meditating and connecting with the spiritual world isn't the most rational thing in the world either. I'm going to sit here until I get a sign from an angel. Isn't something you bring into a laboratory. So that's kind of what I mean about, there's a certain irrationality you've experienced over the past 5 years. But because you've been, I believe, on a spiritual path, it's been a little more grounded than, being like an alcoholic or being somebody completely confused and semi-delusional, so to speak. Just seeing what else is going on here in terms of... that's the strongest stuff I see in your chart right now. If there's anything particularly you want to ask about, I'll certainly dig into that too.
Next 6 months would be wonderful.
Well, you have it's something that actually helps you. Your Mercury and your Venus are both in Aquarius, which is an air sign. So your mind, Mercury, and the way you relate to people, Venus, are a little more practical than being a Pisces. So that kind of helps ground you a little bit. It does mean, Venus is in Aquarius, your Mercury is in Aquarius. Your mind and the way you relate to people is a little unusual, is a little bit offbeat, which probably helps you, because if you do involve... Sure. If there's anything involved in healing for you, sometimes you have to come up with different ideas. That doesn't always work, because, and I'm assuming you're more spiritual healer than doctor healer or medical profession healer.
I just about went into the medical profession, yes.
But it was too logical, right? Go ahead.
Yes. Very much so. It was, I found that I could be a spiritual healer as well as a physical healer. I run energy.
Okay.
So, and on top of everything else, I'm a psychic medium, so...
Okay. Well, all that Pisces... I would be surprised if... You probably had to learn to shut that off when you were younger, because that Pisces is so strong, it was like... It was 24/7.
Yeah, it is 24/7. The only time where it's ever been truly shut down was when I was actually psychically attacked. I defended myself and I blew everything out within a very specific radius around me. For 2.5 days, it was this silence. I was like, that's what it's like? Wow. Yes! I had no idea. I was like, wow, it's actually really quiet.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say you shut it off or shut it out, but I think that you learn to damper it. You learn to kind of,
Yes.
Because it didn't really go well.
Or you go nuts.
So what I'm bringing up, though, is the Jupiter first will be passing over Venus and then Mercury. So it could bring new relationships in. Now, when I say new relationships, I'm not just talking about boyfriend, girlfriend, or lovers. New friends could come in, new people that might become partners in some way, shape, or form. They could be business partners. They could be teachers. As a matter of fact, Jupiter will get this again next year. Jupiter will go through both of your planets in Aquarius, so there's a real kind of opening up for you mentally and in terms of other people.
Yeah.
It's going to be followed up by Saturn kind of trailing behind it because Jupiter moves faster. Saturn will be in Aquarius for like the next 2 years. Jupiter is only going to spend about a year there. So Saturn will come along and kind of ground stuff. Saturn is more practical. So when Saturn gets to that Venus, that's when the teachers might come in as opposed to just new people. Saturn gets to Mercury, you might be taking the new things you've learned and doing practical stuff with it. When Saturn gets to Mercury and Venus in about a year or so, by then Jupiter will be on your midheaven and on your sun and your moon in Pisces. So it's about a year and a half from now, there's going to be a lot of expansion and growth. It could be very positive career-wise. Jupiter on your sun makes you feel very good, and meanwhile Saturn will be tempering that Venus and that Mercury and kind of keeping your new ideas focused. So the next 6 months, some openness, and about another year after that, kind of a real consolidation and growth period. So and expansion of your career. So that's basically what I see here.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank
You're
you,
very
Nikki,
welcome.
Thank you, Nikki, for calling.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Thank
you
you
calling,
very much.
Nikki.
Okay.
Hi, Christopher.
How are
Thank you
you?
very much. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're very
You're
welcome.
welcome. You're welcome.
Okay.
All right.
We do have somebody else. I don't know who.
I know.
That's right. I know. So hi, Vicky. I see you. I can see you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the next caller in order would be 646.
Hold on, we're gonna go to Vicky.
We're gonna. Okay. Hold on
Okay.
just 1 second.
Just
Let me
hold on
bring
for a
up,
second.
and I can get Vicky's birth information. Come on.
Hi, Faith. I know you're in there. We'll get to you.
Okay. So Vicky, when were you born?
7th of June, 1969.
1969. What date in June?
7th.
69. 7 as in lucky 7, right?
Anthony.
Okay.
Yeah, that's me.
Anthony.
Okay.
Meet my mother.
And what time were you born? Do you know?
I don't know that, and I can't find out either because my mother's passed. So
Okay. Maybe you should talk to a medium and get the birth time. Anyway, and where were you born?
in the UK,
Give me a town.
Chelmsford.
Chelmsford. CHEL.
HELMSOSSFORD. I mean Chelmsford.
Oh, there it is. Chelmsford, England. Okay. Now I'm going to set your chart for noon. The reason I do that is, I think, there you are. We pick the middle of the day. If we don't have a birth time, we pick the middle of the day because most of the planets are going to be in the same place. The only thing is I won't know your rising sign, but I can get a lot of information out of this. So I just want to mention how I go about doing this. The only thing I may not be completely certain about might be your moon because the moon can change signs every other day. We'll know in just a second. You're probably definitely a Pisces moon, which means, because it's, I don't know what time you're born. It could be anywhere from like around 10 degrees to about 25 degrees Pisces. So you have a very Piscean moon and you're a Gemini. That's a little tricky, because Geminis, well, let's just start with Gemini. Geminis are information processors. They love to read. They love to discover facts. They love to gather information. They love to talk. They love to share information. And they can be very logical and linear and in a healthy way. I'm not implying anything wrong with that. But your moon is actually very, very intuitive. So your inner sense of emotional self has probably struggled over the years to connect with your mind. Your mind and your heart they're not at war with each other, but it's almost like one's speaking Swahili and the other one's speaking Spanish, and it's sort of like we don't really understand each other. Now, over the years, ideally, hopefully, you'll find a solution to that, because actually that moon and sun, if the moon is roughly where I said it was, is forming a T-square with Pluto and Jupiter. So you're probably quite powerful emotionally, and you have Pluto conjunct Jupiter, which gives you a lot of personal power, and it's conjunct Uranus, which also gives you kind of an unusual quality right up front, and it's all in late Virgo. So you're probably a stronger than average Gemini, and what I mean by that is that for a lot of Geminis, they can be very when I say light, I don't mean they're insubstantial, but they're over here, they're over there, they're over there. There's kind of they're just fascinated with everything, so they run from place to place to place. You're a little more grounded than that. You can be very practical at times. Your Venus is in Taurus, so you actually relate to people in a very grounded way. It's conjunct Saturn. Venus and Saturn conjunct in Taurus is pretty strong. It does make you a very responsible, when Saturn's is connected in any way to Venus, it makes you very responsible for other people. You know how to take care of people. As a matter of fact, to a certain degree, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but people with Saturn and Venus conjunctions often see every relationship they get into as a responsibility. So they're sometimes a bit reluctant to connect to people because it's like, that's one more child I'm going to have to raise. Kind of a quality. Because you get very dedicated. Your friend gets sick, you'll be the one bringing them chicken soup. They need a ride to the hospital, you'll be there. So that's what I mean about relationships for you are very, you enjoy them. I don't want to make it sound like you don't enjoy them, but they're definitely kind of responsibility based, and it's very solid. Venus is in Taurus. It's a very naturally sensual sign. It's a very natural, practical, grounded, steady, stubborn sign. You become friends with somebody, they're not going to get rid of you, okay, is what I'm kind of saying. Not that you're a stalker, I don't mean that, but just that you have this kind of loyalty. Although the Gemini mind is always going. Your Mercury is in Gemini. Again, a very constantly thinking, probing, moving mind. It's working harmoniously with that bundle I said of Pluto, Jupiter, and Uranus. So it's a good, very creative mind, very expansive mind, transformative mind. The Pluto is so strong in your chart. When I see a strong Pluto in a person's chart, I almost say that you're the kind of person that finds themselves being reborn every now and then. It's almost like you can actually look and say, oh, 2002, I was different before that and I'm different now. Like you can almost pin moments in your life when there was a transformation, So it's almost like in many ways you get reborn several times throughout your life, which is for you normal. It's not for everybody, but it is a very natural thing for you.
That's exactly what happens. Yeah.
Okay. And your Mars is in Sag, how we work. Sag can sometimes be almost as scattered sometimes as Gemini. When Mars is in Sag, the problem, on one level, Mars, how we take action, excuse me, you can be very open-minded in how to come up with solutions. You're the kind of person that always has a plan B and a plan C and a plan D, and you'll figure it out. But the other side of Mars in Sag is sometimes you will take on 27 projects when people can do 5, okay? Because it's just a part of you that's like, and this is backed up by your Gemini. Wait, that's interesting. Oh, wait, that's interesting. Oh, what's that over there? And the next thing you know, you've got 27 half-finished projects on the kitchen table. So you just, and I don't want to discourage your desire to learn new stuff, but when it comes to taking action, you do want to try to focus a little better and decide what can I actually pull off right now, and have a to-do pile. Don't have a 17 projects at once pile. Okay, 2 you're working on, 15 they're waiting to be gotten to, and that'll make it a little easier for you in terms of the energy that you experience. Right now you're going through probably a very strong spiritual stage. Neptune by transit is right on top of where we think your moon is, and even if it isn't, it's a few degrees either way. You've been getting this strong Neptune on your moon, so sort of an inner spiritual opening up going on for you, expanding that empathy you have. trying to see what else is going on here. Where are those crazy planets that are driving everybody nuts this year? You're not actually being as strongly directly affected by, as I mentioned earlier, the 3 planets that are driving everybody nuts this year. It's not a strong thing in your chart. Not that you're not being affected by it, but it may not be, hammering you as much as it might be hammering other people. Mostly the Neptune transit seems the strongest, because I don't see other transits here that are really kind of riling you in any way. I say riling, not all transits rile people, but they do kind of set off things in a person's chart. So I don't see a lot of strong transits other than that Neptunian one, which is actually kind of Neptune transits. They can be very spiritual. They can be very dreamy. They're like I said earlier to Katie, it's like sometimes it's like you're drunk for a couple of years, but in a pleasant way. Is there anything in particular you want to ask about the chart that you're curious about?
The transformation parts and the spiritual parts. I resonate with all that you've said, and I'm going through a transition at the moment, so that's really interesting.
Yeah, no, it's definitely and it's actually helping. That Pluto thing that I said is so strong. Your Pluto's at 22 degrees on the other side of the chart. Neptune's at about 20 right now. Is that correct? Let me just double check. Yeah, Neptune's at about 20. So it will be opposing your Pluto. In another year or so, it'll be opposing that Jupiter, and then the year after that, it'll be opposing your Uranus that you have, the trio you have in your chart. So you're really kind of beginning maybe a 4 or 5 year spiritual journey on some level, deeper than you've gone before. And it doesn't mean you won't be practical with it, and all you're going to do is sit and spaced out and meditating for 5 years. But you may find yourself, because it's opposite Jupiter and learning new ideas, opposite Uranus, new concepts. You may find your spiritual beliefs turned upside down, but not necessarily in a bad way. Neptune often, particularly with Uranus, it's more like how do I put this? Up until now, maybe your spirituality has been like A, B, and C, and Neptune and Uranus are going to say there's D, E, F, G, H, and I too, by the way. So it's like you're going to be adding more ammunition to your spiritual gun. That metaphor went bad. More books to your spiritual library, let's put it that way, and more techniques and more ideas that you can work with. So you're really kind of beginning that, and it looks very promising. And that's kind of mostly what I see happening in your chart. And next year, when some of those things go into Aquarius, they'll be working harmoniously with your Gemini. So there will be changes, and you'll be growing, but it's not sometimes I see growing in charts where like one of the planets kind of leans on people and says, you're doing this now. Well, that's not Neptune. So the growth and changes will be kind of flowing, and they won't be that logical. Your sun, your Gemini, won't understand it as well as your moon will. Okay, so in a way, it's a very emotional, intuitive few years coming up. And Gemini will be curious anyway. Oh, let's look at this book, and then this might be when when your sun in Gemini kind of understands, as the Pisces moon starts looking for new ideas. Gemini's like, I'm all for looking for new ideas. Of course, it might get them go, well, these are spiritual, but it still will be there. So there might be a nice time for you to blend yourself together. Is that a good way to put it? The parts that seem to be struggling with each other.
Yeah. And what about love? Things like that.
Oh, what about it? Okay. I will say, first of all, I'll give you some examples of times that might work for you, but you can fall in love at any minute. So I don't want you to think like, oh, I have to wait till January. But I will say that Mars will be crossing over your Venus and Saturn in January. It could bring in action on a new romance of some kind. And it would be early January, like the first couple of weeks of January, there could be a spark that could be developing. By the same token, actually, by about let me just see where's your Venus? Oh, it's all over there by now. Okay.
So if I told you it already just happened, so what does that mean?
then I would say it'll probably get more intense in January. Okay. Mars can be about taking action. One way of looking at it is that Venus can be about the interactions we have with other people, and Mars can be about the physical activity we have with each other, if you understand what I'm referring to. Okay. So that's what I said, it may get a little more intense and a little more intimate in January, in some way, shape, or form. Now it can obviously be sexuality, but it can be also just this kind of, Mars brings action, and so you may find yourself taking more action with the relationship, whereas maybe you're kind of hanging out now, and then maybe in January it'll suddenly be, we need to do this together, whatever that might be. So that's what I'm saying, action. It can be some frisky activity, but it can also be the two of you form a direction and a desire that we have to do this together and working together in some way. Okay. So that's what I see there.
Anthony.
Who's that? What?
It's Katie. So do you remember you did my birthday chart, and do you remember about mentioning about my sparring partner?
Yes.
You were just talking to her because that's my mother.
Oh, okay. That's a dirty trick. Okay.
Happened to be Katie's mother, yes.
These things happen. Forgive yourself. It's okay. No. Yeah, I don't, to be perfectly honest, Katie, I don't always remember I do a reading and 10 minutes later it's
same
gone.
thing with me. Yes, same thing with me.
You can't keep that in your brain. I go to a party and somebody's like, you did a reading for me 6 months ago. I'm like, oh, don't ask me questions now. So I understand.
Because I remember me reading you too, Vicky. I remember, but you know what? If you ask me, if you got validation with what I told you, and you say, Chris, do you remember what I said? What you said? I'm not like, no. It just goes. You get it, and then it just goes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's the way
Katie gave me a recording of that. So.
Yep, that's the way it works.
Okay, well, Chris, you've been recording this, so somebody send Vicky the recording of what I just said.
Yeah, we can send you a recording. Don't worry, okay. We got you.
Okay. I have the wrong cap for my seltzer here. Oh, there it is. So, anything else, Vicky, or shall we move on to the next? What's the story here?
Yeah, because I know we should take other callers. We do have other callers. We have.
I think you can take another call. That would be good. Yeah, that's good.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vicky.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you for calling, Vicky. Nice seeing you again.
So.
Who we got up next?
We had 646, I think.
Yep.
That's what you said, right, Christopher? We're going in order.
Yep.
We'll get to you guys. Sorry about the delay.
Okay, 646. What's your name?
Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Good
Happy
evening.
birthday. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy
Thank you,
birthday.
So when is your birthday?
Today. Today.
August 21st.
Yep.
Can I get a birth year?
Sure, 1981.
1981. Do you know your birth time?
Yes, it's 1:52 a.m.
1:52. So your mother didn't get any sleep. 1:52.
Nope. Not at all.
And where in the world were you born?
New York.
Oh, okay. Probably down the
Do
street.
I need a
from me.
specific
No, Manhattan, New
town?
York is fine. No, I've it's just we just want a city because it helps locate where, and we're talking New York, of course, right? So.
Yeah, I'm like 20 minutes from there, but yeah, relatively close. Do you want a specific city or?
Well, if you're not like if you're in Patterson or you're in Yonkers or something, yeah, that would be better.
Yeah, Yonkers.
Okay.
Funny you said that.
Yeah, Yonkers, New York. Oh, okay. And why? Got to enter this.
Hopefully your birthday's going good, Faith. How's your birthday so far?
It's going good. It's been quiet. It's true. When you get older, after a while, you're just like, what do I do now?
Yeah, and then plus you can't have a birthday cake. You can't have people over because of this damn.
I know. I'm like, I could do little cakes and stuff, and then I'm like, I could also do video calls. I'm like, it's not the same thing. Like being in quarantine, like being out, enjoy some food together.
Let's use Zoom or Skype and use buy ding dongs as your birthday cake.
That's the same thing.
That's
That's the
Good
same
idea,
thing.
right?
at 66, when I had my 66th birthday this year, my wife says, "What you want to do?" I'm like, "Stay home." Just leave. Okay. So, what? I'm sorry, I forgot, my brain short-circuited. What was your name again?
It's okay. Faith.
Faith? Okay.
Yeah, Faith. Faith.
Okay. So,
well, not that we have much of a choice this year. This year they tell us to stay home.
Yeah, it's true. Well, I had a January birthday. I got that before we were all locked
down.
Oh,
right before. Yeah, you're lucky.
Yeah. I should have taken advantage of it. Anyway, your sun, as you know, is in Leo.
Yes.
28 degrees Leo. Your moon is in Taurus. Which, a Taurus moon, well, first of all, Leo, we all know, Leo's very proud. They like attention, not a bad thing. Leo gets a lot of bad press. Oh, we're egomaniacs. They're not egomaniacs, but they definitely want attention. They want to be recognized. But by the same token, they're very loyal to their friends. The original symbol of Leo was the king or the queen, and if you paid homage to the king, then the king took care of the kingdom. He took care of the serfs. So the whole idea of paying attention to a Leo is that you want them to, they want to be taken care of, your friends, and that's why they're very loyal. There's a lot of energy to them. They can be great leaders. Your moon in Taurus, though, kind of stabilizes you. Moon is how our emotions, how we process our emotions, and being in Taurus is the probably the steadiest sign of the zodiac, in the sense that they're also the stubbornest sign of the zodiac. They like things the way they are, and they don't want to change them. So on one level, you're emotionally very kind of grounded. You're not the kind to have like hysterical emotional outbursts. But now you are Cancer rising, so that brings a certain amount of emotional nurturing up front, particularly because your Mars is also in Cancer. And literally, and I don't mean this as a joke, although it always comes off this way, Mars in Cancer can be an aggressive mother. And I mean that in the sense of like you're very directly nurturing. It's when you take action, it's an emotional kind of nurturing action. You don't make plans. When you do things, it's very emotionally based. And I mean that in a good way. A lot of people say emotionally based, they don't know what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Well, they're not thinking, but it's intuitive. You have an emotional response to it. Your sun is also trining or working harmoniously with Neptune. You have a good intuitive instinct. Let's see, your Mercury is in Virgo. It's a nice place to have a Mercury. It's rulership. You have a good mind. You can be logical and rational, along with being spiritual. Your Venus is, let me see, it's just over. This is interesting. Your sun is in Leo, which is ruled by it. Your Mercury is in Virgo. Your sun is in Leo, Mercury is in Virgo, it's ruled by it, and your Venus is in Libra, which it's ruled by. So you have 3 planets in their rulership, which means that they function very well. So you're very good at relating to people. You can be considerate. You too have Saturn conjunct Venus, like the previous caller did, but you have Jupiter added in there. So you may see a lot of relationships as a responsibility, and of course, you are naturally a nurturer, so that comes naturally to you. But Jupiter makes it a little bit lighter. You don't necessarily feel people are a chore, but sometimes you do. Okay, let's be honest about it.
Very true.
But it doesn't upset you as much. There's a part of you that kind of enjoys fixing people. It's not quite the word I want to say, but that nurturing quality, it comes naturally to you when you see things that need to be done and people need to have taken care of, and you want to do that for them, and you want to encourage them, and you connect well with them, because that intuitive side of you know kind of what needs to be done. Your Mars, how you take action, is working harmoniously with your planet of craziness, Uranus, or new ideas. So you often can have new ideas and actions to get things done. I will say one thing, and this is probably the most challenging part of your chart. Your Mars, how you take action, is squaring or has a difficult relationship with Pluto, which is like the planet of power and control. Okay, you can be dominating. Now, I don't mean it to sound like you got the whips out and you're beating people and making them behave themselves, but you have a certain kind of a presence and an energy where people listen to you. There's something about you that it's like I said, it's not exactly charisma, but it's close to it. You have this kind of aura, AURA of this kind of I can get things done and I know I mean what I say, and people are like, yes ma'am. Okay, so they'll kind of go along with it. Now that's wonderful on one level because you can be very helpful in transforming people, but when you get mad, I would get the hell out of your way. I would go three doors down, and I'd say, call me when she's feeling better. Okay.
That's true.
So there's a lot of energy and power there. So that's what I said. Is sometimes it can, when you use it in a healthy manner, you can be very transformative and help people change and be a very strong presence in their life as kind of a mentor or a healer. But when it goes awry, it's you're just madder than hell, and just get the hell out of your way. And it takes a bit to get you upset because that moon is when the moon's in Taurus. I have a moon in Taurus. We like what we're feeling. We don't want to change. And so what happens is you have a lot of people with moon in Taurus that they don't get angry easily because they're comfortable the way they are. So when you have somebody with their sun or moon in Taurus and you actually finally get them angry, they're really mad. Because I had to get up and move, and I was enjoying just sitting there. So by the time you do get angry, it's built. That's why, and then on top of it, you have this nuclear power to express it. So that's the biggest challenge in your chart, and I think you kind of handle it. I don't think it's a super problem for you. You're very good at expressing your emotions. Your moon is trining and working harmoniously with your Mercury, which helps you communicate and talk. And your immediate family is important to you. Your sun and your Mercury are both in the third house. By immediate family, I'm talking about even cousins and sisters and just like immediate family. You get along really well and you communicate very well yourself. So if you have a career, it's probably, well, your midheavens in Pisces. It's probably, again, energy healer, spiritual healer. Your Neptune, which is about kind of a Piscean energy, is in your house of the workplace. So that means that you have a very nebulous kind of workplace, so you don't always work in the same office. And I do want to mention with Neptune in the house of health, which is where it is, I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form to ignore modern medicine, but you get a lot of mileage out of spiritual medicine too. Okay, and when you do get sick or you have any kind of a disease, and I'm not saying you're going to get it, but if it does happen, a big part of your healing is figuring out what the illness is doing for you. Are you suppressing an emotion? Are you not on your right path? What is it telling you emotionally and spiritually is a big part of your healing. So yeah, take the aspirin, take the medicine the doctors give you, but definitely sit back and say, however you want to put it, what is God trying to tell me? What are my angels trying to tell me? And understand that any illness for you is very much a spiritual disharmony manifesting physically. Okay.
That makes sense. That makes sense to me.
Now you are getting Pluto and that triumvirate of trio of planets I talked about earlier are opposite your Mars, so you may find at times, at least this year in particular, dealing with anger. Things are making you angrier this year than usual. Not in an overpowering way, but you're probably more agitated than usual this year, and it's not just because of the COVID or the lockdown. This would be happening in your chart even if that wasn't happening. When those planets are opposite there. So, and you may find other people, a lot of what you're doing this year has been instigated by other people. And so there may be some frustration. The Leo in you may be feeling like, damn it, I don't want to do this, but now I have to. So that might be going on this year. It should be smoothing out that Mars retro. That's basically kind of what I see at the moment. Is there anything specific? And happy birthday. Is there anything specifically? Anything specifically you want to talk about that I haven't?
Well, I was looking more like the financial and like financial issues and some family issues that I had going on. Nothing major, which is some things that I'm hoping to see resolved within like the next 6 months that are causing some of the frustrations that I've had.
Yeah, I can hold on a second. I can see. Let me bring up since it's your birthday, let's bring up your solar return chart, like I did with Chris at the beginning of the show. Yeah, there's struggles with your family, definitely. I do see though that the moon in your solar return chart is trining or working harmoniously with that trio of planets I'm talking about. It does suggest you will work through this, but by the time you and the family members work through it, there's going to be some changes. There's going to be some transformations. Some of the old ways may fall by the wayside, not in a bad way, because sometimes in order to do something new, you have to clear out the old crap. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it does suggest a harmonious solution to things. It will take a little bit of struggling. Mars is squaring it, so there might be a certain amount of feistiness. Try not to punch anybody in the nose. Okay. There will be some anger, and the anger may be from stuff that hasn't been dealt with. You know, some of the stuff coming up is they talk about the 800-pound gorilla in the room that nobody talks about, or 300-pound gorilla. There's things in your family that that some of you have been glossing over, okay, and that will come to a head in this part of what's actually happening now. It may not even be specifically about what's actually happening, as opposed to leftover resentment that's creating the problems. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that the battles going on in your family, or whatever the turmoil is in your family, it may not specifically be about what you're exactly fighting about right now, but the underlying thing that brought this up in the first place, things that really haven't been dealt with. I don't mean to make this sound like, everybody has to get into psychotherapy, but there's stuff
Oh, no, not at all.
But there's stuff in the past that needs to be dealt with that hasn't been dealt with yet. And by the way, even though Mars is squaring all that stuff, it's also forming a trine to your Sun and your Mercury in your solar return chart, suggesting that there's more harmony than disharmony that's going to happen. But it will be a little bit of a struggle, but it will get worked out. And actually, with your sun and your Mercury in your solar chart, or in your 10th house of career, whatever that might mean to you, so it does suggest there could be career advancements too. So in the context, of course, of all the struggles that all of us are experiencing financially in the country, but I do think it could work out. It's just a matter of the family issues are going to be a little more important than work right now, although they can have positive effects on your work too this year.
Mm-hmm.
For the next 12
That
months.
sounds great.
So.
Yeah, that's great. That makes sense. Because that means that's a lot of change. But change is good. It's a little scary, but it's good.
Yeah, it is a little scary.
Yeah, it is.
Particularly with
scary when you're going through it. Yeah, because you don't understand it as it's happening. You look back later and you're like, oh, that wasn't bad.
And you have a Taurus moon, and as I said, those of us with Taurus moons, it's comfortable the way it is now. We don't want to change.
Yes.
So it's not just it's like we don't want to be uncomfortable, but sometimes you don't realize the other side of the couch is more comfortable. So if you get up and move, it might be more comfortable over there. So okay, sounds good. Many blessings to you.
Thank you.
Many blessings to you. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your birthday.
Thank you. I'm going to try to make it a long weekend. And try to enjoy a little bit every day.
Stretch it out. Stretch out that birthday, yeah.
I'm going to try, as long as they let me.
And thank you for calling.
Thank you.
And we should take this short break. We just want to
Happy
take a break.
birthday, Faith.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you, guys.
We will take this
Good night.
break.
Good night.
Guys. We will take this break, guys. I'll have Walker Files on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network. And by any chance, if something goes on Facebook, you can look us on Global Enlightenment Radio Network.com. You can hear us on Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeart, and other apps. So, like I said, if something ever happens, just check us out on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network.com. There's other apps, like I just said, SoundCloud, iHeart, Spotify, and iTunes, and then there's some other ones. But we'll be right back after this commercial break.
be afraid to call. I'll be waiting over the horizon. Don't you worry, I'm not very far. I light it up, show you the way. I light it up, show you the way. I light it up, show you the way. I light it up, don't be afraid. When the night gets cold and the lights go out, the sun is gone behind the clouds, and you feel lost, and I'll reach out to guide you home with my lighthouse. When the night gets cold and the lights go out, the sun is gone behind the clouds, and you feel lost, and I'll reach out to guide you home with my lighthouse. Whoa, I'll guide you home with my lighthouse. Whoa, I'll guide you
Tonight it's very clear as we're both lying here. There's so many things I wanna say. I will always love you. I would never leave you alone. Sometimes I just forget, say things I might regret. It breaks my heart to see you crying. I don't wanna lose you. I could never make it alone. I am a man who will fight for your honor. I'll be the hero you're dreaming of. We'll live forever, knowing together that we did it all
We're back, guys, on the House Worker Files, the Global Enlightenment Radio Network. And the House Worker Files is the lighthouse. Thank you very much. I just had to say that. But I just say welcome, guys, back, and I hope you enjoyed those songs. Those are just beautiful vibration, just picking up the vibration. And we do have 2 more calls. And in case if we don't we will get to those calls. But just in case, we can. You know what? We'll just tell you like this. For Anthony, for other people, how can they get a hold of you? So in case I won't forget to tell you that. So in case they won't, they can get that down.
Couple places to get me. I have a blog at cosmictuesdays.wordpress.com. The blog's very irregular, but it has a lot of my comments about astrology, and it's how you can reach me. Or you can just email me at AS as in Stephen, P as in Peter, ICCO, ASPICO at gmail.com is direct email address to me. So you can find me there, those 2 places for sure. And of course on Facebook under Anthony Pico.
And I was going to say, Anthony, Anthony, you're doing a tremendous job. You know how many times we've been on here? I lost track of time. I don't remember how long you've been on here. I think it's like 4th, I think.
This is the 3rd, but if I could have been the 4th time if it worked out last week.
I know, right? Well then, you know what? That's weird. Then there's 2 Anthonys. Where did the other Anthony go? Are you a twin?
Not that I'm aware of.
We'll take the news caller. I just have to say that. What was it? Well, I think it's 970. Am I correct, Christopher? Okay, correct. 970. 970.
Okay, 970.
970. You're on the air.
You're on the air.
Unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself. I guess they're still unmuted.
Oh wait, she's been unmuted.
Hey, we're
Howdy.
Howdy.
And who are we talking? And who are we talking to?
Who else says howdy most of the time? It's Gayleen.
Hey, what's up, girl? You heard me singing? How embarrassing! Now this playing.
Oh, it was very, very sweet. Very, just a little under the music. But however, I caught you on the last show, Anthony, at the very, very end. Show was cut off, and you just did highlights and rushed through it and invited me to contact you, and I didn't. So here I am.
She's back. Okay.
It got into a couple of things that I definitely needed to go into. So I'm here. Review what you need.
Well, start by giving me your birthday again, because I don't think I saved that one. So tell me when you were born.
14 September 1963.
14 September 1963.
9:15 p.m.
9:15 p.m. So your mom missed her favorite.
And La Mirada, Lamirada, California.
Lamar.
M-I.
Oh, M-I. Okay. La Mirada.
R-A-D-A.
R-A-D-A.
It's a suburb of L.A. County, Southern California.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Just double check. L-A-M-I-R. Is it 2 words?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
L.A.
L-A.
M-I-R.
There it is. La Mirada. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
It wasn't coming up on my computer because I kept putting it as one word because I'm an idiot. Hold on a second.
Even my hospital burnt down. They don't want me.
Well, all the records destroyed. No, she never was born. So, okay.
Yeah, no, I only have microfiche copies of my birth certificate.
Oh boy.
They all burned up.
Okay, let's see. So, natal chart. And since I forget everything the minute I do the reading, was there a particular area we were talking about, or you just want me to start fresh and just bang it out?
Well, you can overview and hit those highlights, but then I need to go into what could be considered career, but I have not worked since I was considered disabled in the Army in 1992.
Okay. Now I'm beginning to remember some of this, yeah. Okay, well, let's just start. Your sun is, as you know, in Virgo. Your moon is in Leo. Your sun is part of a 5-planet stellium in your 5th house. Now, the stellium is when 3 or more planets are all like kind of jammed together. So, and it spreads across the sign. Your sun, your Uranus is at 6 degrees Virgo. Your Pluto is at 12 degrees Virgo. Your Sun is at 21. Your Venus is at 25. And your Mercury then goes to 1 degree Libra, but they're all in the 5th house. There's a kind of a potent ball of energy there. Now, let's start just a basic Virgo description. Is there is kind of a properness and a formality about Virgo. I don't mean it to sound like they're all stuffy people. They're not. But there are rules, and they know their rules, and they like their rules. But yours is a little wacky because you have the planet of disruption, Uranus, and Pluto transformation, also in Virgo. So you're kind of a rule breaker that likes to make new rules. Okay, you like a certain structure. And your Venus is conjunct in the Sun, which now Venus in Virgo can be a little fussy and a bit of a caretaker, but because it's how they relate to people. But it's conjunct your Sun, which makes you kind of a certain amount of charm. When Venus is conjunct the Sun, it's very easy to talk to people. It's very easy to relate to them. And then your Mercury is in Libra, so you have a fairly good balanced mind. It's all in your house of creative self-expression. Now, other stuff I see right off the bat, your Moon is opposite your Saturn. So you may feel at times other people suppress you emotionally. And in particular, your Moon is in your 4th house, your inner sense of self. That Saturn, that feeling of oppression, is coming out of your house of career and public image. You may feel that the more public you become, the more you have to actually struggle to be yourself. You may feel going public kind of means you have to cut yourself back. Your Mars is in Scorpio. How we take action. I have a Mars in Scorpio. You're the kind of person that when you act, it has to come from a desire to do something. You cannot do 9-to-5 work. I'm impressed that you survived the military, because this is not the kind of a Mars you expect, unless maybe if you're, Patton, that you want to see in a military person. You want to see a more, forgive the way of putting it, a cooperative and obedient person, and not somebody that responds only to their emotional kind of a side. That Moon, Mars excuse me, my tongue starts betraying me here. The Moon opposite Saturn is also squared by Neptune. Okay, that might soften it a bit. But, so there's this kind of, this is a tough one. Just give me a second here. Neptune, when it squares in a T-square, can add a certain amount of, it's different qualities. On the challenging side, Neptune can make you delusional and confused. On the other side of it, it can make you very idealistic and spiritually oriented. The reason they both connect to Neptune is often not about the physical world. It's not about physical reality. So there's a part of you that when you're being spiritual, and I use spiritual very loosely, and when you're connecting to the universe in some deeper way, things function pretty well for you, but you can just as easily misread people. The reason I say that is your Neptune is sitting right on your descendant, your 7th house cusp. So on one level, you kind of have this desire to see everybody in an idealistic manner. You see kind of the pure heart inside everybody, but not everybody is manifesting their pure heart. Look, every one of us has a soul, and every one of our souls is wonderful, but some of us are real jerks here on Earth. Okay.
Oh yeah, I get exactly what you're saying on that.
So, and sometimes there's some part of it loves everybody anyway, and sometimes that backfires on you, because sometimes with your Moon on your 7th house cusp, you trust people a little too much right away. Okay, and your Moon is squaring, which means that you can be very hurt by them, because your idealism discovers that that person was a jerk. And so in a variation of speaking, I would say when you get to know people, slow down, take it a step at a time. You naturally kind of want to embrace the world and embrace people and be connected to people, but not everybody's worth connecting to. Not that they're not decent human beings, but at the moment you meet them, they may not be behaving in the best possible way. So there's a kind of a risk there for you. And sometimes when you connect to these people that might not be the most beneficial for you, the Saturn kicks in and you feel suppressed by them and frustrated by them. And then the side of you, the Virgo, Venus and Virgo that wants to heal them, says, well, give it another shot, give it another shot. No, don't give it another shot. They're jerks.
I'm starting to get that. I'm finally starting to get that mule
That's
kick.
wonderful. Then that's wonderful, because that's, without meaning to sound like a school mom or something, that's kind of one of the lessons in your chart, really to understand when, when you have to do what you need to do for you and not be thoughtful and kind to other people. I mention that because that Venus in Virgo, my wife has that too, and sometimes I'm like, honey, like, take care of yourself. Make sure you're not always helping people so much that you believe me, this isn't exactly you, but I know with my wife, it's kind of like, we're giving a lot of money to charity. Shouldn't we save for the rent, But there's this quality with Venus and Virgo. You kind of want to heal people. And
I just have to know the difference between being a rescuer and a first responder.
Bingo. Okay, that's a good way to put it. That's a very good way to put it. And you have a healthy moon. Even though that T-square involves your moon and is emotional turmoil, your moon also trines Jupiter. And it makes your heart kind of big, but it means there's a nice kind of flow there. You've got a good handle on your own moon. Other people disrupt you, but your moon's in Leo. You feel who you are. You kind of a moon in Leo is kind of got a lot of energy. They're a little ego obsessed, but what Leo isn't. But you have a solid sense of that. It's when the other part of you says, oh, but they need help. Then you have to say, yeah, but can I help them? You got to take those pauses, and you got to make sure you're taking care of yourself, because a lot of that will suppress your ability to express yourself. And you have 5 planets in the house of self-expression. There's a whole lot of you that wants to be expressed, and sometimes you keep going down this back alley of helping people that don't want to be healed. Not everybody wants to grow and evolve. Now, all that said, I don't know if you're listening earlier, you heard about those 3 big bad planets that have given us a whole lot of crap this year. In your particular case, though, they're going to be moving across your midheaven, which is your career. There's almost a suggestion, it may be a little turmoil and challenging at first, but Saturn's going to get to your midheaven, and Jupiter's going to get to your midheaven in the next couple of months, and those are very beneficial things. Saturn can bring a sense of arrival, like figuring out what you do and where you want to go with it, and you've got the training you need to do it. Jupiter will be up there saying, here, expand and grow. So it's kind of this quality. It may be a little bit of a struggle, mostly because you're going to getting yourself back into it and you haven't been there, but you're up for it. And I would even say, Jupiter's going to go through your 10th house of career for most of next year, which brings a certain amount of benefit in general. As a matter of fact, sometime late spring, midsummer, Jupiter will actually be on your natal Saturn. That's that T-square we're talking about. Kind of loosening up some of the restrictions, okay? And you'll actually be getting your second Saturn return in about a year and a half, maybe. And I'll explain what that is in a second. I do want to stress, Saturn in the 10th house suggests, wherever Saturn turns up, it suggests delayed success in that area. It's in your 10th house of career. Now, when Saturn delays you, it's not being mean. It's not just saying you can't have it yet. What Saturn really is want to make sure is before you get to the issues of that particular house, you know what you're doing. You've learned your lessons. You've done your homework. So when I say Saturn can delay a career, it's more like it's waiting until you get it together. The fact that transiting Saturn is going to be entering your 10th house, it's like you have what you need, okay? As long as you don't take any shortcuts, in the sense of like not being honest and not like doing the work, you could see over the next year or two a big shift in your career. I mention it because when Nixon had Saturn in his midheaven, he had to resign in disgrace with Watergate because he cut too many corners. He didn't earn it. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So you've earned
and
it.
And it's funny you say that. I was not very far from where he started his career when I was living there. It's funny you should mention that. I did, in physical proximity, Nixon was the next town over.
Oh, wow. Yorba Linda, right? Is that where he was born in Yorba Linda, right? Anyway.
Whittier.
Oh, okay.
I was an attorney in Whittier, and I pretty much grew up in La Habra.
Okay. So
it was right in that same area.
So once Saturn and Jupiter are dancing through your house of career and bringing you to your second Saturn return, a little bit later, about a year or so, Pluto is going to enter your career. So what I'm trying to say is that the doors are going to open. The next couple of years, you'll be getting your feet down the ground, planted, and getting things set up, and your career going. And Pluto's going to bring a certain amount of transformation and rebirth. So I wouldn't be surprised if you get things rolling, and then about 2 years down the road, roughly, things really take off. Okay.
So let me ask this then.
Sure.
If this involved perhaps maybe a costume shop, that means I have an empty building sitting over here on the hill that has mice and birds in it. That means the house, the building for that all has to be transformed before you can drag the fabric in. And does that make sense to this?
No, because then if it's going to take a year or two to get things really kind of established and rolling, and then Pluto comes in and pushes it further. And that's what I meant about Saturn getting up there. It's going to demand your homework. You got to do it upright. You got to make sure you make the structure, and I use this word structure literally and figuratively. Okay, the structure has to be set up right.
Is possible.
Yeah, legal structure, building structure.
This whole plan.
It could work. It could definitely work, and I suspect one of the reasons it might make it work is how unique it is, because you have, as I said, 5 planets in the house of creative self-expression, and that does imply somebody who has unique ideas and unusual ways of expressing themselves. And the second Saturn return, very quickly, let me talk about Saturn returns. We get them 2 or maybe 3 times in our life, about a 30, at about 58, usually about maybe 86, and if you're lucky enough, you can have another one around 118.
And I'll be 58.
Okay.
At that point.
Okay, Saturn is the planet of authority and discipline and structure, and the first 30 years of our lives, we get all of that from the outside world. Mom and dad and the minister and the police and the teachers are all telling us what to do. Even into our 20s, we get our first jobs, and we have to keep doing what our bosses tell us what to do. And then we get to be around 29, 30, and we become our own authority. We've arrived at being an adult. And then what happens at 58 is, as I like to call it, it's time for Act 2. Okay? So the second Saturn return becomes, now what are you going to do with the rest of your life? And I use the term rest of your life loosely. Okay? I don't want to make it sound like, your last chance or anything. So, and traditionally, a lot of people retire at around 60, 65, and then ideally they have a different life. So you're coming up on a period of, like, let's say in about a year or so, Saturn hits your Saturn, it's your second act. So everything you're doing sounds like an Act 2 to your life, if you understand what I'm saying.
Because I was ready to trash that whole idea. I was going to go into my storage unit and literally just dump it.
It's certainly possible. I will say you're getting a lot of inspiration from transiting Neptune is opposite your Sun, and then it'll be opposite your Venus, which is about, beauty and dress up and finery and things.
Yes.
The only thing I will say is you're dreaming very big, and there's nothing wrong with that. But dot your I's and cross your T's. Because Neptune can sometimes make you feel like I can do anything, and you can, but Saturn comes along and say, but did you file all the paperwork? And is this structurally sound? So balance the two out. Indulge that dream, but make sure...
I worry that I don't have the physical stamina.
I
need a partner.
Yeah, and you need to be careful with partners, because Neptune is on that descendant, so you tend to be a bit idealistic. It's not impossible to find a partner. I do think that you are stronger than you think you are. I think that Mars in Scorpio operates on passion, and the more emotionally committed you are to things, the more strength and energy you have. So that's what I mean about. Christopher, you saying something? What?
No, I'm telling Christopher something. You can keep going, Christopher. Okay. Look at the message I sent you a message.
Okay. So I think you'll be surprised at when you start doing this, how much energy you'll create for yourself. You may not think you have the stamina, but you might have more than you think because of that, because this passion is kind of moving you.
So I should not have to rely on what is sitting in the recliner right now, but tapping into more, and it will be self-serving.
Yeah, I do believe so. I think you've got that energy, and you've got a lot of help from Jupiter, and Saturn is kind of arriving. It sounds like, and actually I'll even take a little further with Neptune, that T-square I talked about. Yes, it can misfire because it's a T-square, but if you really combine Saturn and Neptune and the Moon in a healthy way, which is kind of our job when we have a T-square, you're able to physically manifest dreams. Neptune is dreams, Saturn is reality, your Moon is your emotions. You've got the ability in your chart, now that you've gotten to the place, because we were talking earlier about how you've understood that T-square better, you're getting to the point where I know squares can be difficult in astrology, but one of my favorite teachers, Isabel Hickey, said a more evolved person can turn a square into a trine, into a healthy thing. I think you're reaching that part where you've, and I don't want to sound like a schoolmarm, you've solved your lessons, you've learned them, and I think you're ready now to retool yourself a little bit and aim in that direction and pull it off. And it may not be perfectly easy. It'll be a little bit of a struggle because there's a lot to be done, but I think a lot of your emotional passion and the creation, as I said, of the second act in your life. This isn't just a business, really. This is really the second half of your life. What are you doing now? So this is more than just I'm starting a business. This is I'm making Galen happy on a deep level, and that's just as important as a business.
Huh? It's funny how you say that, and it just makes me tear up.
Well, I hope it's tears of joy. I think you're reaching that point. I think you're definitely, again, it'll be a struggle. I'm not denying that, but I think you've got it here. Bust your hump a little bit, and I think the dream can come true.
Okay, now that does it. That answers a lot of questions. Okay. Thank you very, very, very much, and hopefully it will connect with other people, because that's the whole point, is to try to draw them. So, because where I'm at, I'm somewhat isolated, and I've got to have I don't know, you might say if I have the playground in my backyard, people can come play here, and then I can draw the people I need.
Yes. And don't forget. Don't forget the internet can open up a public presence that you have a physical store, but there's a lot you can do with getting in the internet and getting yourself advertised there too, so you can draw people that way too. So there's a lot of options. There's more options than ever before. And
okay, thank you so much.
Good luck.
Happy birthday, Chris.
Well, my birthday's not till next month, but thank you. Thank you, by the way.
I thought it was. I was hearing part of that. That was another caller.
Yeah, that was
somebody else's birthday. Yeah, today.
That was a confusion because I thought we were all Virgos.
Thank you. I was going to ask you, by the way, thank you for calling Katie. How many times?
15 minutes.
Okay, so we do have 3 callers. By the way, I don't want to interrupt you, Anthony, because I know it takes you some time. So do you want to do, because I don't know if we even have time to put all these 3 callers,
Well,
I don't know how to
do one.
How about one?
Yeah, we can do one, and then and for the other 2 callers, we'll get you off the air.
Yeah, we can continue after the show's over if you want to hang out for a while. Sure, why not?
Yeah, because we have, how many minutes do we have? Kate, are you okay?
We have about less than 15.
Okay. Just want to
Or
make
actually,
sure.
less than 12.
Okay, then we might as well just go off the air so we can take care of it like that, because I don't want to rush Anthony.
Yeah, that's fine.
They're going to fill that out. because we
I
only
can't
got
talk
like
fast, but yes,
that's what, yeah, you know what I'm saying. Yeah, so we could just do that. So guys, on the ones that are on hold, please don't hang up. We'll get to you in a second. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the show. For Anthony, how can they contact you?
There's my blog at Cosmic Tuesdays, spelled exactly like it sounds, with an S at the end, .wordpress.com. I'm also at aspico at gmail.com. And of course, Anthony Pico, you just put me into the search on Facebook. I think I'm the only Anthony Pico on Facebook. So you can find me there. And, if you're curious, actually, you put my name into YouTube. And there are a number of astrology videos I talk about. So I can always be located that way, too. So I'm everywhere. Okay.
Yeah, he's like everywhere, just like me. So he's not that hard to find. And if you can find me, you can just find me on Chris Psychic Garcia and just find Anthony. So that's how you can do it. So as far as that goes, we will be back Monday, guys. If you enjoyed the show, be safe. I hope you enjoyed it. The House Worker Files and Global Enlightenment Radio Network. Good night, everyone. Stay safe.